So the platform firm was 100 employees in 2017. Now you're what, 1,500 plus?
1,800.
1,800 now. What do you love most about growing fast?
If you would have asked me in 2017 that we'd be this size, there's no way. What we did is we set a strategy where we want to grow, what we want to do, and we're going to be very opportunistic. And when something hits that strategy, we're going to be aggressive. On the organic, we let our employees decide where we want to go. So if you have a champion for something, really, they're going to grow it. So we've been growing organically about 20% a year. That's more of our secret, actually, as opposed to M&A. And so the company's just grown mostly because of the employees, what they're doing.
Welcome to the Word on the Street podcast, where it's all things AE.
I'm Mark Goodale. He's Mick Morrissey, and you are watching Morrissey Goodale's Word on the Street podcast. Mick, February, your favorite month?
Yes, indeed.
Cold, sleet, snow, Valentine's Day. It's got it all.
Indoor pickleball, baby.
You still doing that, huh?
I'm still doing the
How are the
pickleball
ankles?
thing.
Is
The
it both ankles or just one?
I've got two surviving ankles. I intend to continue to use them.
And any kind of championship?
Yes,
Yes,
mixed
in the
doubles
outfit?
and
Mixed doubles.
and unmixed doubles.
And unmixed doubles?
Yes, indeed.
What is unmixed doubles?
It's the same gender.
Okay. All right. Which one? And you're going to take both titles, I assume?
Yep, gold in mixed and gold in
Outstanding.
men's doubles. Yep.
Outstanding.
Thank you.
Well, I think it's time to introduce our fantastic guest, don't you?
Absolutely, it is.
All right, let's do it. Today, we are thrilled to have Ernesto Aguilar, President and CEO of Ardurra, number 84 on ENR's top 500 list. Ernesto, welcome to the street.
Thank you, guys. Thank you for having me.
How you doing?
I'm doing fine. Ask me at the end of this.
So, Ernesto, tell us a little bit about yourself, the company, and then we'll really dig in.
All right, a little bit about myself. I always say I'm a walking confusion when you look at me. Because I grew up in Canada. So when I tell people I'm Canadian, they're like, what?
Yeah. Is it the accent that gives it away?
So I actually speak 4 languages.
Is that right?
Yeah, and I think I have an accent in all of them.
Different ones or the same one?
No one can figure it out. If you have an accent, I go, in what?
You know how people know he's Canadian?
How?
So good at hockey.
That is true.
Yeah.
That is true.
I actually can skate.
Really?
Yeah, I'm actually a good hockey player. I used to be.
Hey, oh, well,
Yeah.
we've,
That's another confusion.
we have a need on Wednesday nights. Is there, she's still playing.
So
Yeah.
I did grow up in Montreal. Graduated, first language is French. Went to French schools. Picked up a couple other languages, including English. Some people
Debate
challenge that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're still studying that, obviously.
I am.
Yeah.
I am.
Yeah.
And when I go to Texas, I actually learned Texan too.
Yeah.
So I did graduate as a structural engineer. Wanted to be a stockbroker. Stockbroker.
Stockbroker.
Yeah, I actually won a whole bunch of contests in high school. And my dad said, absolutely not.
Oh, well, you fit the perfect mold of the entrepreneur. You are a business person who happens to be an engineer. And by the way, structural and I think mechanical maybe are the two kinds that actually studied during school. Is that true, Mick, civil engineer?
Yeah.
So are you a PE and an SE?
I am in Canada, it's PEng.
Yeah.
I am not an SC because I did not practice in the U.S. So
Okay.
I actually moved from Montreal to Vancouver, practiced structural engineer for the first probably 4 years of my career, and then realized the guys next to me never talked to me. Incredible field, very technical.
Right.
You don't go to a client and say,
Yeah.
do you have a bridge for me to design?
And that has continued through your career, right? People not talking to you?
Yes, that's why I'm here. To promote. I decided at that point I probably need to switch out of structural engineering. It wasn't going to be my personality. And I actually went backwards and got into more of municipal engineering.
Yeah.
Ended up starting my own business at the urging of my future wife. And
that was in Canada?
that
or
was in
the U-
Vancouver. That was
Okay.
in Vancouver,
Yeah.
yeah. So I ended up having a 35-person municipal firm.
Wow.
And we decided to move. So Vancouver's weather's cloudy.
Right.
Seattle-ish,
Pacific Northwest,
yeah.
West-ish, yeah.
And it started affecting my wife's health.
Oh.
And I didn't realize it was affecting me too till I moved out of it. And so we said, what's the point? Let's move out. Let's go try something for 1 year. We'll go to Eastern Canada. Let's go try something else. And so we said, you know what? What about San Diego, California?
Yeah. That sounds nice.
For 1 year. We did that, sold the business. My wife had her own business, sold the business. And that 1 year ended up being 12.
Yeah. So
Well,
you sold a business you got involved in mergers and acquisitions very early in your career.
Yeah, except I sold it to, so I had the majority ownership and I had a partner.
Yeah.
I sold it back to him. So it
Yeah.
wasn't the same thing.
Okay,
kinda
sure.
Really. Yeah. So moved down to, but yes, I started liking the business
Yeah.
aspects pretty early in my career. I knew the engineering, liked it, but it wasn't, once I designed it, I knew it. I
Yeah.
wanted to want something else. So went to San Diego, joined a 100-person firm. 6 months after I got there, that firm got acquired. And I'm like,
Yeah.
and that firm was PBS&J that acquired that water firm.
Got it. Yeah. What was the name of that firm again?
John Powell and Associates.
Oh, yeah. Rusty, right?
Good old
Powell.
Rusty.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there was a big surfboarding culture there, right? Didn't
There
everybody
was.
go? Did you? So do you surf as well?
I served the net.
Yeah.
And so I picked that up in that job. No, there were a lot of surfers.
Yeah.
It was a really cool company and
Yeah.
really cool. I think when PBS&J came in, that was kind of their Western presence.
right,
It was
yeah.
kind of neat. And you guys remember.
yeah.
You guys
Oh, yeah.
remember. You guys
Yeah.
were there. And so that was in 2000. It was 2020,
Yeah.
24, 25 years ago.
So you've been on both sides of acquisitions, and having that experience, having been there for a short amount of time, and then experiencing that acquisition, it can be unsettling. And so that's got to give you empathy for when you're on the acquisition, on the buy side of this.
Yeah, it's actually interesting. When I actually was interviewing, I actually asked Rusty, "Are you guys not thinking about selling this company?"
Mm.
He said, "No." They weren't there yet.
Right.
So when I came down, joined, he said, "Look, I told you no." He says, "I'm sorry." And he told me ahead of everything was happening. He goes, "It is happening, but I wasn't there yet."
Yeah.
And like everybody else, I'm there like, damn, right?
Yeah.
And so I do realize how people feel. The first thing that comes to your reaction is my job on the line, all that
Yeah.
kind of stuff. And so I go with that. I hear nothing else. Nothing else. As soon as you hear acquisition, and my job.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I remember that feeling.
And I think it's really important for folks to know what is going to change, but also what's not going to change as well, probably as quickly as possible.
Yeah. One thing I don't say though, Mark, when I go out and these companies, I never say nothing's going to change.
Right.
That's
Yeah.
not true. That is not true. You may not think it's a big changes, but to those people it is.
That's right.
Especially just even their email address.
Mm-hmm.
That's a change when you have to put a different logo. Anything that's different, a paycheck's different, it's a change to them. Sometimes they're so attached to their company's name that it's a big change.
Yeah, that's and anytime that it's just becomes sort of rote, it's part of
Yeah.
your life, it's part of the fabric of what you do every day. It is a big deal. It's a
Yeah.
little deal, like you say, but it's a big deal too, as you say. So Ernesto, we want to thank you for being an avid reader of Word on the Street, and you've got an article that you'd like to talk about. And I think Mick wrote it. Actually, I think you did read.
So it's one of our lesser read articles.
Yeah,
I
lesser known.
understand. I understand.
I always go to the bottom and try to bring
That's
it back up.
yeah. There probably wasn't a lot of proofreading of that article either.
But what was that article?
I think there was a part 1 and part 2 on lessons learned on those articles, right? There was an article, I think, with two parts.
Yes.
And I think what resonated with me is, we talk about Ardurra, but Ardurra has pretty much been built from scratch. And I think so I said, what about the lessons learned as you're growing the company, things you learned? That's probably, I thought, something I'd like to talk to you guys about.
The Ardurra brand name I find very interesting. Ernesto, can you give us a little bit of background on that? And I'll preface that by saying, when I entered the industry 75 years ago, most firms had their founders' names, and typically it was a trifecta, and it was or Aguilar, Goodale, Morrissey, whatever it might be.
I like that order, by the way.
And that has changed over the years. And Ardurra is not anybody's name, as far as I understand.
No.
Is that right? Can you talk
No.
us through that?
Yeah, a little bit history. I need to bring the history. The company was started in 2017, and it was private equity, which was not a big deal in those
Not
days.
then.
Not then.
No.
And I came in, started talking to these guys 6 months after they started the company. So they had made 3 acquisitions, and the third company was Ardurra.
Yeah.
Okay. So when I came on board, the company had no name. The company was going by the moniker. The first company was King. The third company was Ardurra. It was going by the moniker Ardurra King.
Yeah.
And I said, why are you guys calling it Ardurra King? Because King was here first.
King was Tampa and Ardurra was Baton Rouge or somewhere in Louisiana?
Houston, small office, Houston
that's what it was.
and New Orleans.
Yeah.
And I said, why are you guys calling it Ardurra King? When we say King Ardurra, everybody thinks it's Hawaiian King. That was
That's
the logic.
interesting.
Okay, so we're going by
Okay.
Ardurra King. So we didn't really have a name.
Yeah.
So we kept kind of going. When the guy asked me to kind of take the leadership of the company, I said, one of the things I want to do is name the company. So we actually hired a firm. We hired a firm. I think I'm going to say the name of the firm.
Don't say the name of the firm.
Okay, I probably know, but it's a funny name of a firm.
Yeah.
But lesson is we probably shouldn't have done that, and they came back with some pretty ridiculous name.
Yeah.
Tangent 45 Engineering, 186K, which is speed of light, and then the last one was Moe's Group, and I said that's the bartender of The Simpsons.
Moe's Group.
They were or MOH, and we said, we're done. So what we did is we
Quite a bit of money at this stage,
we did,
right?
six figures, and so we let them go. We said, you know what, this is not working out. Oh, Calorie with a K
Yeah. Well, that makes so much
for
sense.
King.
Wow.
So we said, yeah,
We're in the wrong business.
So, we brought 10 employees. The company was pretty small, maybe 200 employees at the time. Can you guys name the company in one day? And we're going to give you all the pizza, no beer, till you name the company the day. So we put them in a room, gave them these names this company come up with. You guys come up with something. And they came back and said, but Ardurra, it's the third company. We already have it. We have domain. And it means, so it was named, Rick Clute was the founder of Ardurra. His wife named it, who's still, by the way, a proposal coordinator company. She did a lot of research. It means in Gaelic, it means superior. Let's go with it.
It means superior in Gaelic, which is a Celtic Gaelic language. In Basque, which is a Celtic Gaelic language, it means diligent and responsible.
Right. You know what?
Yeah. But you all have that proudly on your website.
Yes,
front.
we do.
Yeah,
We do.
and I think it's meaningful to do.
So we went with it. It sounded kind of different. We didn't want to give the names.
Yeah.
And I played with a whole bunch of things, and that's what we went with.
So lesson learned there is
lesson learned is don't overthink it.
Yeah.
Let your employees come in. They know about the company. Let them be part of naming the company. And you know what? Those employees are still here with us some years later. And they always say, I named the company. But it was a thing that we now can say the employees of the companies named that company.
Yeah.
When I started in this business, I thought it was a law that every firm had to have 3 letters. It seemed that way. But, so the platform firm was 100 employees in 2017. Now you're what, 1,500 plus?
1,800.
1,800 now. And so during that, what do you love most about growing fast? Because you're growing fast.
Yeah, it wasn't, we don't set these, we're going to be this size by certain things. That's not the way we do it. If you would have asked me in 2017 that we'd be this size, there's no way. What we did is we set a strategy where we want to grow, what we want to do, and we're going to be very opportunistic. And when something hits that strategy, we're going to be aggressive. That's one. On the organic, we let our employees decide where we want to grow. So if you have a champion for something, really love into it, they're going to grow it. So we've been growing organically about 20% a year. That's more of our secret, actually, as opposed to the M&A.
Right.
And so the company's just growing mostly because of the employees, what they're doing.
Yeah.
And we don't set these goals to be the certain size. It's just the way it's happened.
But you have to have the mindset, I would think. You have to be open to that growth, to that opportunity. That's got to be sort of like the culture and the backbone of it.
Yes.
Maybe it's not exactly we're going to grow 3x over 5 years, whatever it might be, but that we're looking to grow. And because I would think you're growing or you're dying to some degree.
Yes. Our structure is set up for growth, meaning we are always setting the company up for more growth. So we are planning. Every acquisition we do, that's one of the things we look at. We have, I think you've heard this before, I have a 4F rule.
Yeah. I love this.
And then the second F is the future. And I say it's 1 + 1 = 30, not 3, 30. So we will not acquire a firm that really doesn't have the mindset of growing.
Yeah.
They have to be, one of the reasons they want to sell is maybe they don't have the capital or the need, the knowledge to do it. We're looking for those firms.
Yeah. You want leadership. right?
We
You
want leadership. We
potential.
want entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
We want people who just don't want to worry about the back office. They can grow their businesses.
Right.
I want
Do
to
it.
take you back a little bit, if that's okay. One of the things I like about you is
Can you
that
repeat that again?
one of the
I
things,
think what he meant to say is the one thing he learned from it.
one of the things I really like about you is that you say we a lot when you talk about the firm. I don't think that's helpful for this podcast. Insofar as you talked about how we have this plan or we had this strategy. So who's the we there? Who back then did you rely on for those types of decisions or those types of discussions? And who's in the mix now when who's the we now in terms of saying this is what we're going to do?
I'll tell you why I do we. And so it's interesting that you noticed it. So I always say this company's built a little bit of my baggage. One of the companies I worked at, the company was growing well, but nobody except for the senior leadership were having fun with it. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
The employees were not. And so I said, what a lost opportunity for the employees not to feel they're part of it. So here in the company, I'll tell you one thing we did when we started. We have what's called an employee council. And we tell them any benefits, any programs, anything with the company, you guys decide. We're just going to fund it. We'll take care of the other stuff. And that's the way it still is. So when I say we, it's because, we are all building the company together. Yeah. They feel like they're building a company. And I think that demonstrates in our turnover rates are pretty low.
Yeah.
And so that's why I say we. So obviously, some people have a little bit more expertise in certain areas. They have to take it. We're just starting something on the M&A. We're getting all the past owners to help us identify people you've worked with in the past that you actually think they're good kind of company. So that's why I say we, a whole bunch of us. Yes, I get involved in the kind of negotiations, and we do have an M&A kind of person that helps with due diligence, but it's really a team effort in terms of how we're putting this together.
You know, Ernesto talked about growth a moment ago, and acquisitions, they come with risk, and you have to sift through a lot of firms to get just a few pearls. I wouldn't even hazard a guess at how many firms you look at a year, but it's not a few. It's not a handful. Given that you've had so much experience and you've seen so many firms, are there any sort of preliminary filters that you have up here that you use just yourself as you size up a firm? Because you've got fundamental constraints of time and resources to invest in the searches. So you can't just be looking and draw these searches out. You have to be able to size these firms up quickly. What have you learned over the years? What has allowed you to filter more quickly? Or have you been able to, and it's just like you got to go through it?
No, I'll give you the number for this year so far. We've talked to 52 firms.
Wow. Yeah.
And we've made one acquisition.
Yeah.
And generally it's us that we're saying it's not a fit for us. I go back to my 4F rule. The first one is really, it's the people. So we go, it's like a date almost. You go to the people, do we actually like these people? Mm-hmm. I always say, do they laugh at our jokes? That's not a good thing. No, but you get to a point in your life, you want to work with people you like. And how they talk about their employees and how you can relate, right? You go out for dinner, you can almost tell right away there. Yeah. That's the first one. And also they tell you why they're even thinking about doing this. Look, there is a cash out. Let's be real. All of them cash out. But what's the real reason? You want to retire? It's because you want opportunities for your employees. Why are you doing this? And that's one. That's probably a big one.
Yeah.
Okay. And so that's the first thing I look at. I see how they talk about their people, what they want to do this, and it kind of helps me. After you've talked to a lot of people, you can figure who's actually lying or not. You can actually tell.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What are some of the tells? How can you tell?
One thing we ask, I ask a question. I say, sometimes there's not as many shareholders. It could be one or two, but the company's got to a certain page. We said, would you be willing to give some of your proceeds to your other employees who are not shareholders?
If the blood goes out of their face, then
that's right. If the color turns like meat, that's not it. That's actually a big one.
Yeah.
Now, almost every company we acquired, I don't even have to ask the question. They actually ask me, hey, I have some people who are not shareholders. Would you be willing to get something out of this? Yeah. Okay, that's a good sign.
Yeah.
But I've had some that saying, no way, that's my money. Why am I going to give it to them? I didn't
Yeah.
want to get a salary. Okay, you're out.
Yeah.
So there's one.
Just going back to your career a little bit. In 2000, you had joined Powell and Company.
Yeah.
Then they got acquired by PBS&J. And when did you leave PBS&J?
So you guys were there. You guys know.
Well, that's what I wanted to get to because when did you leave?
Well, I left. Remember, PBS&J then got acquired by Atkins.
By Atkins,
Mhm.
right. So you were there in 2005 when
I-
Mark and myself were there.
That's right.
So would you say 2005 was probably the high point of your career, where you were
it's
happiest?
a year I forget. Actually,
Is that where you learned a lot about what has made you successful today, the interaction with Mark and
actually
myself?
interesting.
Oh, gosh.
You know this, Mick. So yes, Mark and Mick were there, and Mick actually we had a leadership program, and one of the classes was M&A, and actually Mick taught that class.
Yeah.
So I remember all that stuff. By the way, it's all different in the real
Yeah.
world.
Okay. Purely academic.
No. So that was actually one of the exposures we went through, kind of stuff.
You failed that class, I
I
remember.
I did.
Couldn't build or buy.
Yeah. Usually the failure is a representation of the lecturer.
That's right.
But you-
No. I didn't agree.
Yes, but I was there till the PBS&J went to Atkins. I
Yeah.
stayed a couple of years, and I left in 2014.
Okay.
So I was there 14 years.
Okay.
So when we talk with firms and we hear it all, and Mick hears it every day, I hear it every day about this work-life balance thing, and you can't find a good man under 50 these days kind of talk from certain demographics. We're always talking about the employees and trying to make sure that you're threading the needle there. What about your balance? You seem to love what you do. I bet you don't track your hours every day. It just sort of happens, right?
I don't track my hours. I actually, if you ask me how many hours I work, I have no idea.
Yeah.
But you know what? In the middle of the week, in the middle of the day, if I have to go get a haircut, I get a haircut in the middle of the week
Yeah.
because it's not busy. If I have to go do a podcast in the middle of the day, I go do a podcast in the middle of the day.
Yeah.
So you're thinking 15 to 18 hours a week, somewhere in that neighborhood?
So like now in February when it's cold outside, are you
Yeah.
working less? Are you hibernating, or are you're on the road all the
sleep in
time? right?
late.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's on the
Missing
road.
your daylight.
I don't. Many years ago, I figured if you really like what you do,
Hmm.
you won't even you put it together. Now I do have certain rules. A certain 6:30, I have to be downstairs, or my wife kills me.
Yeah.
Dinner 6:30, I'm done.
Oh, you
done.
mean 6:30 in the evening? You're done.
I'm done.
Okay. So you're off your phone. You're off your laptop. You're
I am off.
got it.
Wow.
I am
Okay.
downstairs.
That's good.
Yeah.
Now, it doesn't mean I might not go up, but I rarely do. The weekends, I try to have at least one of the days. I have never missed any of the kids when they were growing up events.
Huge.
That's big.
So every month, I do the next month. I sit down with my wife and I do a calendar with my travel, and she tells me these are the days you can't travel.
Yeah.
And so we actually do that, and so it's worked out fine. I'm a good sleeper. I get good sleep. I try to take care of myself, and so I'm fine.
Now, I got to ask you this. This is going to be a weird question, but how are you at getting off the couch at night to go upstairs or wherever your bedroom is? Do you fall asleep on the couch, or are you able to just get yourself up and go?
Usually some people come and pick me up.
That you're vaguely aware of this happening.
Yeah,
You just wake up in bed somehow.
That's right. Yeah.
I ask because I think, hopefully my wife doesn't see this, but I don't think she thinks our couch is too comfortable either. I can't even get off of that. So I'm thinking, let's not buy a comfortable couch. I never even make it to these things. So, but you feel that, what about work-life balance for the folks in the organization? Is it really, have things really changed, or has it always been this way?
I hate to be generational, but I do think there is the new generation does think life balance is more important to them. I have 2 kids who are in their early 20s. And when I talk to them, they value it way more than when I was their age.
Mm.
I talked about progressing my career. They talk about making sure they don't work too much.
Yeah.
So there's lessons for us to learn in that regard. I think some of our older employees have an issue with these guys being lazy. I don't go that direction. I think you need to you need to accept things kind of changing. You can have different types of works. We actually had it was interesting. We have in a company, we have this thing called the diversity lecture series. We do it every couple of months. And we had last fall, we had the younger generation, like the Gen Xers, the new guys versus the baby boomers. It was kind of hilarious, but it was interesting to see how people think. There is a reality in terms of change. And you just have to be willing to accept that. It's not that they're lazy, it's just a different thought process.
It's a different thought process. And it seems to me like it used to be that your company was your flag. It was where your loyalty was. And now I think it's people have their own causes. And if they can achieve those causes through the company, that's kind of a good thing. And I also get the sense, and I've heard this from other CEOs in the industry, that more and more, people don't necessarily, the workforce out there is not trying to get to that ownership level necessarily. As long as they have that balance, they have that purpose, they have this sort of responsible autonomy, they're okay with that. And so they don't necessarily need to own the company. And in some cases, they don't even care who owns the company. And so I'm wondering if you're seeing any of that kind of dynamic, that less and less, it's not about having the name on the door and that kind of thing.
You know, shockingly, I hear that a lot. That happens most of the time.
But maybe firm to firm.
Everybody wants to buy into our company.
Yeah.
We are constantly, we can't do it. We can't have everybody in the company firm because private equity kind of back has certain rules.
Yeah.
But we're constantly we have about 20% of our staff that owns stock in the company, which is unusual in a private equity company. But everybody wants to buy in. Not everybody, but we get a lot of kind of requests.
Strong demand for the stock.
But I know that in many companies, that is part of the issue they're having. They cannot be able to transition because people they don't have the money, right? The valuations have gone up so much.
Yeah, and they're a victim of their own success to some degree.
Maybe if we were in that position, we had to sell a company, I wouldn't be able to do it either. But right now, I'm getting a lot of requests.
I've got a two-parter for you.
Yeah.
The first part is, and this is on lessons learned. First part is, when you think about the firm, do you think of it in the context of the number of employees that are in the firm, or in terms of the revenue scale of the firm, or the profitability scale of the firm? How do you think about the firm?
When I think of size?
Yeah.
For the financial side, the private equity, they obviously look at EBITDA, right? That's their measure, revenue, many people. When I think of the company, I think of locations and people.
Okay.
So I think of, and services we do.
Yeah.
That's the way I think of the company. So now we're doing more services in these geographies.
Okay. So when you took over as CEO, the firm was 100 people?
200.
200 people?
Mm-hmm.
Handful of locations?
5.
That's a handful. Now you're 1,500 people. You're all over the U.S. What's critical to be able to get from 200 to 1,500 successfully? Top 3 things.
One, you have to have an idea of what you're getting into. There has to be what is it that you're trying to do. We actually spend a lot of time. What are you trying to become? We specifically said we wanted to concentrate on only 1 or 2 sectors and specialized. And we also said where we wanted to do it, which was kind of, the smile that people talk about.
Yeah.
And we specifically went only for that. We were more specialized in trying to do certain things. We're not going to do everything. We're not going to buy everything. It's just specialty. So I think you have to have an idea. And also the employees have to understand what you're doing too, because they help you.
Yeah.
So you can't just go in, we're going to build an engineering company. We decided exactly what we're going to do. So that's number 1. Number 2 is what I mentioned before. I think the employees helping us grow, we would not have got to this point and everybody didn't believe.
Yeah.
I'm gonna share something with you that's actually show you how important that is. Normally when a private equity company recapitalizes to another private equity, that private equity asks that certain money be put back in, right? You have to go put it back in. So they usually ask for about 20%, if the money has to go back in. Our employees threw in 78% back in.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't even do that.
Yeah.
So kind of scary, but they really believe. So I think partially is you got to get your employees kind of they believe. So everybody kind of is moving in the same.
Yeah. Rowing in the same direction.
thing.
Yeah.
The third thing is the company, we're never going to be perfect. We're never going to have it all fixed.
Mm-hmm.
And I hate to use this analogy, but people talk about building an airplane while it's still flying. I like to say it a little bit, but the idea is we're never going to catch up. I tell these guys, we're always continuously building the company, and you have to be comfortable with that.
Yeah.
As an engineers, people are not comfortable.
They're not
right?
comfortable. They want to, it's the same with compensation plans, right?
Right.
They think, put a compensation plan in and we're done and dusted.
Yeah.
You're not. Everything is continually changing.
So I tell these guys when we're acquiring company, just so you know, we don't have it all figured out, and we never will.
So that's one of the things I learned from Mark. Actually, that's the only thing
He doesn't have it all figured out?
No, but when I know when he's advising firms, he takes the approach that really everything is an experiment.
Yeah.
Right? Everything is experimental. You're trying to do the right thing, but it probably will change and will evolve and will grow along the way.
It's interesting because of what engineers do, they have to be right in the work that they do. There are life and safety consequences. And so you get paid to be right. But in that project world or that project environment, you follow the formula, you get the outcome. But when you're growing a firm and you're managing, leading, and dealing with people, it's all sort of trial and error. It's how all cognitive learning works. And you get some things right, you get some things wrong, but getting them wrong is not the bedbug of intellect. It's how you learn things.
One thing that has happened, though, is we went through a whole round. Private equity, how the company has grown. So they get it now, what happens at the end, too.
Yeah.
And so they're a lot of employees are getting used to, okay, this is what happens. We've only made one acquisition this year,
Yeah.
but they're actually used to it and they expect it now. So again, it's a thought,
conditioning.
it's a thought process.
But you've learned your way towards some goals, right?
The different thing now, the company's 1,800. The difference now is that we're not as, before we were a little bit more, let's try this, let's try that.
Yeah.
There's a little bit more process involved. We were way more Wild West before. Right now, the company's $450 million in gross revenues. We have to kind of protect. This is risk management, right? Risk management, jobs are getting bigger.
So is that going to change for you in your mindset as a CEO? So it was Wild West, fast growing, making stuff happen. I can see how that could connect with your personality and your the kind of way you're wired. You're visionary. You want to make things happen. You want everybody to have fun. And then as things get larger, do you find you have to batten down more hatches and maybe protect more things? And
I'm actually going through that right now in the company.
Yeah.
So the company, we're going through a new stage now. New leaderships come in, a lot of new people. And I've always told everybody, I hate bureaucracy. I detest it.
Yeah.
It's the word detest.
Yeah.
I really just detest bureaucracy. But it's probably been to the detriment a little bit to the company, the way I keep saying it.
Yeah.
So now what's happening on our legal stuff, Ernesto doesn't like bureaucracy. They keep using my name. So I've had to start running the company. Hey, guys, there's bureaucracy and there's processes and discipline. And so I'm going through that process right now with the company, telling them there is a difference. Not everything's bureaucratic. We're still going to be entrepreneurial, nimble, that kind of stuff. But I have to protect the company in terms of risk. We cannot go ahead and just do contracts because this is my friend of mine. We shook our hand.
Yeah.
No, it's $1 million contract, guys. You have to have a signed contract, and things like that.
Yeah, and you have to be able to, and it sounds like you've had some divergent thinking and then convergent thinking over time, and as the firm has grown.
When it comes to growing, though, we're still like that.
That's right.
Never the Wild West still, always will be. It's when we bring it into stuff in the company, contracts, any legal kind of stuff. Let's just be smart about it.
Be smart. You've got those two dimensions of risk: how likely it is and how much it'll hurt if it happens. And you can't do much about how much it'll hurt if it happens, but you can do something about keeping it less likely.
Right. I think our strength is still we have 40 owners who used to have companies. They know how to build companies.
That's right.
Go out there and do your thing.
Yeah.
But we're not. I have to put, and they're buying into it. They get what we're trying to do.
Well, there's some common sense you got to sprinkle in with it, right?
Sure.
So I wanted to go back to, I got to bring us back to Canada because I'm fascinated by this. I didn't know you lived in Montreal and Vancouver.
I did.
And so us being sort of in a hockey area of the world.
And it being February.
There's no love lost between the West Coast and the East Coast of Canada when it comes to hockey. They might even, in the West Coast, might root for or East Coast, even the dreaded Montreal Canadiens might root for the Bruins over the Vancouver Canucks. Do I understand that correctly? That's crazy.
Interesting. My dad was actually the realtor for the Montreal Canadiens.
Oh, wow.
Is that
So,
right?
so I actually met a lot of players. I grew up during all the five Stanley Cup years.
Oh,
and all
yeah.
that.
Yep.
So
That stung a little around here.
in Canada, that's
Yeah.
like religion, right? The
Oh,
hockey.
yeah. Yeah.
And then I moved to Vancouver. So it's Montreal Canadiens. I moved to Vancouver. Not as
Not as big, not as
it's
entrenched.
still there. But then I moved to San Diego.
Oh, yeah. No,
Nothing.
75 degrees every day
Yeah.
is going to do that.
Yeah.
So, all right, it's time for Word to the Wise, where we ask our guests for some wise words. And Ernesto, what's a belief or practice you held earlier in your career that you've now since let go of, and why?
I think one thing I've learned is you cannot do this, what I did, without a lot of help and networks. So everything we've got to, it's not me. It's having a network of people that help me. Trying to do it on your own, it ain't going to work. You're not going to be as fast. I'm not a micromanager. I'm very much, you go there, long rope, you screw up, then I'll pull it back in hard. But I think before I thought that I had to do more to get ahead. And that's actually not true. Yeah, you hear the cliches, hire people smarter than you. That's actually pretty easy for me. But it is true to get people that can support you, that you can actually trust and leave alone. The company will grow.
Yeah.
And I think before I thought I had to do more than I had to do. You don't.
Yeah.
The smartest thing to do is hire the right people. And you hear this stuff, but it's absolutely true. So I actually, not to say I do less, I am much more dependent on people than I used to be.
Yeah.
Before, I think one of the hardest parts, I think, for even project managers is to let go. You have to be able to trust people. They're going to do it. And sometimes I still win. Sometimes I wouldn't do it that way. But you know what? At the end, it works out. It's okay.
But, you bring up the big one, and that is letting go, that delegation.
It's very hard.
Well, it's because that's your knowledge and your network is how you define your value in the company. And being able to share those two things freely seems like it's counterproductive for you personally, but when in fact it comes back to you tenfold when you do that.
Absolutely. Going back to the we, that's what I mean. When people think they have to do it all or it's all up to them, it's not true. Important decision in the company, I get advice from the people in our company, some of the guys who report to me. What do you guys think? And sometimes they change my mind. Sometimes I have to go with the gut, but sometimes they bring up good points. Yeah, I'm going to go with them. And I've done stuff that I wasn't comfortable with, but they made good points and I went with it and it's worked out. So
you bring up a great point. I remember just getting out of college thinking, I want to do this on my own. I don't want any connections. Anybody offers me, do you want to talk to this person I know? No, I'm going to do it on my own. And pretty soon you realize, well, it's kind of like you got the break, take it. It's not whether you get the breaks or not, it's what you do with them when you get them. And so I think that's important.
The network is such an important thing, both personally and business. It's a fun part too, right? I like to get to know people, you learn a lot from everybody. Every person you learn from. Sometimes it's bad, sometimes it's good, but you still learn from somebody.
Technology or not. It's
technology
still
or not,
a people business. And maybe that'll change a little bit in terms of how people connect, whether it's like us sitting together or if we're, remote or whatever, but that human connection still needs to be there.
I still think this cannot go away. This connection in person, there's no replacement to it. I'm not saying, but trust me, Zoom and Teams works. Actually, it's better than the 1-800 calls, right? But it is.
Yeah,
those things must be bankrupt, by the way.
Yeah, that's a good point. I'll look into that. Got to
and-
get my money out of that.
Yeah. But call 1-800, find out what.
Yeah. Hello? Anybody there?
So, but I don't think this will ever get away. So, I tell my kids that no matter everything in life, even personal, just get to know a lot of people, have a network, depend on that network.
Yeah.
So,
As an only child, I vehemently disagree with everything you've just said for the past 10 minutes.
and actually, and there's proof.
On that note, Ernesto, thanks for joining us today. And thanks to our viewers. Please like and subscribe. Join us this March at our 2025 M&A and Business Symposium in Miami and get your copy of the 2024 Word on the Street collection, our entire bank of 2024 Word on the Street articles in one place. We'll leave links in the description below or just visit morrisseygoodale.com and see you next time on the street.